What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast. Winding down here as the season goes on. One of the last home series of the year up against the Cincinnati Reds. Mets took the final game of the series, lost the first two, though. So wasn't necessarily the easiest series, but, we still got to talk about it as we always do. Till the end of the season, we're going to be talking to you guys after every single series. So make sure you are following us on all our social media at Mets'd on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to the New York Mets YouTube channel if you enjoy what you're listening to and you want to watch us. That's where you can do it. And if you are listening, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Odyssey, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. James, weirdly in Ohio for an episode when we're playing a team from Ohio. How's your weekend been?
Yeah, really funny coincidence, but nice that I got to be out and about in Ohio this weekend, actually be able to catch the Mets games at bars on local televisions. But great wedding, a great weekend. My good friend Ross was here for his wedding. That's, as I tell you guys a lot, David and Will Bednar's cousin. Was hanging out with the Bednars at the wedding, not Dave, but the rest of the fam. They loved taking shots at me because they were like, where's your buddy that works in baseball media? What's he got to say? But that's just super knowledgeable baseball family. Just also great to hang out with old friends from college. Wonderful wedding in general. First wedding I've ever been to in my life that wasn't thrown by Italians. And I have to say, really simple, really nice, really easy, no theatrics.
No drama?
No drama, very little drama, hint of drama, no drama.
Still a wedding.
Still a wedding, yeah. Amazing speeches. Shout out Ross's best man, Ty, also a member of our fantasy baseball league. He did a great speech. Just really, really wonderful day.
Yeah, of course.
Love wins.
Yeah, I mean, weddings are fun. We're at an interesting age. I'm sure some people listening have gone through it, or some of you are going to be going through it soon. You're a little bit younger. But when your friends start getting married, going to their weddings, always a fun time. One of my friends from college got married during COVID, in October that year. Went to his wedding in North Carolina. Absolute blast, especially because North Carolina had no rules. So it was oh my God, I get to be outside and be around people, just in open space. It was a blast, and I'm excited for the next couple that will be coming up as well.
Yeah, it was funny. My buddy Ross and his wife, Erica, they are sports addicts. They love sports. They love gambling. They love doing absolutely everything. And one thing that's my favorite thing about them is they bought a house last year, and before they got any furniture, before they did any home renovations, they mounted 3 televisions on the walls so they could watch as many games as they wanted. And so many people who gave their speeches, the pastor who married them mentioned the fact that sports watching is something that Cowboys touchdown, damn it, that brought them together. Sorry guys, I'm watching the Jets game too. It's a hot season now, football baby. But it was just cool to be around nice people I've known for a long time, reconnect with some old friends. Wonderful weekend. Weddings are always a wonderful, amazing time.
Yeah, no, super fun time. Bringing it back to the baseball here. Game 1, we had Roberto Clemente Day, so players were able to rock number 21 without the name on the back of their jersey in honor of Roberto Clemente. Lindor, of course, has been a Clemente Award nominee. He was wearing number 21. Edwin Diaz was in the ballpark that night. He was wearing number 21 as well, obviously not playing yet. Really cool event. I feel like it's going to eventually turn into a Jackie Robinson thing where they retire Roberto Clemente's number throughout the league because he's just another one of those guys who was bigger than baseball. Obviously, one of the better players that we have seen play the game, as well as just an incredible humanitarian.
Yeah, and I think he kind of gets a little bit lost in baseball lore because he was on some Pirates teams that were good, but it was not really at the time when the Pirates were at the peak of their powers, which happened, I think, a little bit after he tragically passed away, right? Because the Pirates had those great teams, late 60s, early 70s, and Clemente, right? Double check me on that one.
Maybe. I'm going to double check you on that one. But yeah, keep saying what you had to say about Roberto.
But he was an all-time baseball player. He had all 5 tools. There's some great highlights of him from back in the day where he was able to throw guys out basically from the wall, on a fly to second or third base. Incredible power. Ended on exactly 3,000 hits, which is one of the weirdest caveats of I think his entire career.
Yeah. And
just also the irony of him being this incredible humanitarian and passing away on his plane ride. I think he was going to help Nicaragua to help with earthquake relief. But
yes,
he's just one of those guys that kind of makes baseball. It's hard to tell the story of the game without mentioning Roberto Clemente being the talent he was, the person he was, the impact he's had in the game. And it's really wonderful that we have this award for him year after year, that every single team gets a nominee for Roberto Clemente. And it's Lindor this year, and I think he embodies what Roberto Clemente meant to embody really well.
Yeah, Clemente, 2-time World Series winner, 1960 World Series against the Yankees, and then 1971 he was the MVP against the Orioles. Only twice he's been in the World Series. He won them both times. Just an incredible player. Shout out to also a friend of the podcast, Danny Torres. He does an entire Roberto Clemente podcast where he interviews players and talks to them about the impact that Roberto Clemente had on them, on the game. He's had guys, I think, like David Wright, Curtis Granderson, maybe even Francisco Lindor, Carlos Beltran on. So if you guys are interested in that, you should definitely go check it out. Really good stuff over there. Just, again, one of the best players to ever do it, just all around, on and off the field. And I got a feeling 21 is going to be retired across the league at some point.
Also funny, that's a multiple of 42.
That is, yeah, half of
Yeah.
42.
Yeah, right? Kind of weird. But yeah,
Never put
honestly,
those together.
yeah, if that were to happen, I'd be supportive of it. I think that'd be really cool. And then getting onto the field this game for the Mets, something really interesting when the lineups dropped. Ronny Mauricio got his first major league start at third base, a position he didn't even play very much in the minor leagues. And we know the Mets have had a lot of third base prospects come through the last few years, namely Brett Baty and Mark Vientos. But Mauricio looked like a pretty natural fit over there. He looked very comfortable at the hot corner. We know he has the arm to support that position, and looked like kind of a good thing.
He had the one awkward play. I don't remember if it was in the fourth or the fifth inning where they eventually got a run because of it, but he kind of backed up. He got in between. He was caught in between of whether you should charge it or take a step back and wait for the ball to come to him. Got caught in between, ended up like clanking off the top of his wrist. And again, that's going to be from not playing the position, even though, like, yes, he's played shortstop, he's played second base. Third base is such a drastically different position than either of those. The ball gets on you so much quicker. It's why they call it the hot corner. It's not necessarily because it's like the hottest place to play. It's because the ball gets on you quickly. He'll adjust. He looks pretty solid, and he's for sure got the arm. We saw him make some really, really nice throws, cannon of an arm. And as long as that bat's in the lineup, that's really all I care about. I don't care how he plays in the field at all.
I mean, yeah, you don't care who plays in the field. It'd be nice to have a plus on both sides of the ball.
Sure.
Totally. But we'll get to Mauricio's offense a little bit. I want to talk a lot about David Peterson's start Friday night too, before we get deeper into the series, because I think it was probably the most interesting things that happened on the field for the Mets this series, because this weird David Peterson reality we're living in just continues to persist, but also continues to astound. Just to have, be a little philosophical there for a second. His final line, which is obscure but still becoming just very David Peterson, 5 2/3, 6 hits, 3 runs, 2 earned, but the 1 earned run was on his own wild pitch. So I think it's like one of those situations where, shout out Richard Hernandez, Twitter follower, that happened today in the game. And it happened, so weird, happened twice this weekend where there was a wild pitch or a pass ball that wound up like a run be scored. But yeah, that's not an earned run for the pitcher, but almost like kind of like the pitcher makes an error. Sometimes maybe it should be, but it's just too hard to have these caveats in baseball scoring. But then Peterson also 2 walks, and in the 5 2/3 innings, 10 strikeouts.
Yeah, I mean, like my dad, when we were leaving the game, because I was there on Friday with them, and he was like, how many strikeouts did Peterson have? I'm like, I don't know, 6. He's like, 10. I was like, 10? So when did that happen? Like, he does it it's so sneaky. And maybe because we had higher expectations for him coming into the season, and he kind of scuffled a little bit at the beginning of the year, starting to pitch well towards the end. Yeah, starting to pitch well towards the end. But is this just kind of what we saw last year that got us excited and we just have a new perspective on it? Or is there something different going on with David Peterson, do you think?
I think there's something very different happening with David Peterson. We talked a lot in the beginning of the season how the slider was the pitch last year. That was the chase pitch. And then this year, they kind of tried to make it his primary pitch. And it was more of like a tight cutting slider, almost similar to a cutter, but had a little more slide on it, and it wasn't coming in as hard. So that wasn't a thing. But we've seen over the last few months, David Peterson has reworked that slide. I've been mentioning to you guys that it has much less horizontal movement and much more vertical movement as coming through. And it's also coming in a little bit slower than it was last year. And this was the best results he's gotten in the slider and any start I've ever seen him. And I just say that because the Reds swung at it 8 times, and they swung and missed on it all 8 times. They didn't make contact with one pitch. They didn't even hit a foul ball on the pitch. He threw 13 of them total, and they swung and missed on 8 times. The other was out of the strike zone. I think there might have been 1 or 2 called strikes in there as well. But the important thing here is that David Peterson's turning the slider into a pitch that, rather than playing off his fastball, something we heard him talk about a lot last year, still does a little bit, because his fastball, while it doesn't have like the crazy backspin, the rising effect that some of the best fastballs in the league have, it still has similar to that, even without being like the level of effectiveness as some of the best ones in the league like that. But his sinker especially is a pitch that has come back to him a lot more. And he's been throwing some curveballs too. And where that slider is right now, it has a spin axis very similar to his curveball, but it's dropping about 15, 12 inches less and coming in about 8 miles an hour harder. And a pitch that's being in the zone a little bit more, and the hitters are still swinging and missing at it. And if I compare it to his slider from last year, and the spin is much more similar now to the curveball that he throws than the slider he threw last year. And I think all that's coming together to create a pitch that, again, probably while the old slider was a good pitch objectively, you kind of need to create good pitches among the repertoire you have, because your pitch is only as good as the other pitches it plays off of. Like, you can have the best fastball in the league, but that's the only thing you have. It's only going to take you so far.
Exactly.
So the fact that this slider kind of fits in a little more snugly in his repertoire and creates a little bit of deception between the fastball, his curveball, and his sinker, especially as much as he's throwing the fastball and the sinker and mixing and matching those two as much. Because as we've known with David Peterson these last couple of years, neither of those pitches have ever taken the step to become elite. So when those pitches aren't elite, you kind of have to mix and match and use them in their own roles and their own situations whenever you can find them, and then focus on that location. So seeing him get this new slider and seeing how effective it's been, the small sample, being able, again, this is all box score reading. This is using Baseball
Yeah.
Savant, Brooks Baseballs. Even could be like a pitch tracking issue with Baseball Savant. This might just be all curveballs now, and it's just like there's a little bit of a gradient because they're less consistent. But based on what I've seen compared to the slider last year, you can see the adjustment happening. You can see the changes in movement per month. You can see the change in spin axis when you go from last year to this year. Like that is something that I think is real, is important. And you saw it help him be really, really effective Friday night. The first few innings, the Reds couldn't really touch him. They only really started to get around on him in the 5th and 6th. Nick Senzel, gut punch, third time home run, third time through. There was a bit of a gut punch, but still overall good start.
Yeah, I mean, he did a really good job, kept the Mets in this game. Also helps when Pete Alonso hitting his 45th home run of the year. Absolutely smoked it. A little bat flip in there as well. Always love to see that from Pete. DJ Stewart doing the thing that kind of just getting used to it with him now, making nice catches in the field. Made a good catch in game 3 as well on Sunday. DJ Stewart just keeps doing his thing. Someone hit a foul ball. So where me and my parents are sitting, we were kind of near the friends and family section of the Reds over at, you know where I'm talking about, right? Like down the third baseline.
Yeah.
And the ball got hit from DJ Stewart's bat into the friends and family section. What just happened in the Jets game? I see a reaction.
Zach just scrambled for 12, try to get the field goal range, 30 seconds left in the half. Good podcasting. Go Jets.
Go Jets. Even though I'm a Commanders fan. But got hit into the friends and family section. All the Reds players are like 28, 29, 30 years old. So they all have their wives there with like infant babies. And they're all screaming because a baseball is coming to them as they're holding their baby. And like, luckily, nobody got hurt. Didn't hit anybody. But there was like a lot of shrieking and like, oh my God, oh my goodness, oh my God. And there was a guy who I think even listens to the podcast, like an older man in his 50s, 60s, who was like so screaming because someone got the ball. He's like, oh my God, I love DJ Stewart. One of the guys in the family section gave it to him and he was like losing his mind as if like he won the lottery. He's like, I got a foul ball from DJ Stewart. Like DJ's he's living on as a little bit of a cult hero here in Mets world.
He is. He's a local legend, and he just keeps playing well. And this game did get the win, got taken out of sales at the end here. Jonathan India hit a late home run to give the Reds the win. Jonathan India, a little homecoming, as we mentioned in Thursday's episode. Also, Zach, another 20-yard run for Zach Wilson.
Okay.
Another 20-yard line, 30 seconds
Good.
left, one timeout. Come on, go. Also, just knows your dad went, and you guys 2 days in a row to Citi Field.
Yeah, we went a couple days in a row because
Awesome.
my parents, I don't think they're gonna be able to make it to any other games the rest of the year.
Hmm.
So they wanted to make sure that they could come out to at least one more, and they were hoping to see a win. They did not, but they had a good time. Also, bumped into a good friend of ours, Sammy. Saw him at the game. I
Oh,
was
hey.
going to get the buffalo chicken sandwich donut thing, which is just still so incredible. If you guys haven't gotten it, it's on the third base side market behind home plate. Like literally go up the Robinson Rotunda, go left. You'll go to the first market thing in there. They got a glazed donut with a buffalo chicken sandwich in the middle. It's absolutely delicious. Was getting one of those, checked out. And I'm like, wow, that guy's got a Deion Sanders, like old school Reds jersey. That's so awesome. And I was like, oh my God, I know who that guy is. That's Sammy. I know that walk from anywhere. So I saw him from back, smacked him on the back. I was like, hey, what's up? And ended up hanging out with him for the last 2 innings. Also, speaking of Ellie De La Cruz, because again, in the ballpark for this one, he might be one of the most popular players in baseball right now. I know he's not playing particularly well, but he didn't play in this game, but he's kind of popped out of the dugout in the like 7th, 8th, and 9th inning and was standing up on the ledge by where the fence would be. And there were swarms of people, at least 100 people in the section screaming nonstop, Ellie, Ellie. He was turning around, smiling, taking pictures, giving finger guns to people. He's a very cool guy. I was shocked to see how popular he was, though. I thought that was more of just like the diehard baseball fans, but he had like 8, 10-year-old kids like losing their mind that Ellie De La Cruz was standing there. So it's pretty cool to see.
That is super cool. And Ellie has become just this larger than life figure. Just being a 21-year-old, like 6'6", the dreadlocks, the crazy speeds, home to first. And you did mention the fact he hasn't been playing well. He didn't really do much to write home about this series. I even think he only played 2 of the games, correct?
Yeah, he didn't play on Friday night.
He is, though, as he's not getting that was bad, Zach Wilson. Oh my God. He is, while he's not getting really like the results that you want to see. Like the home runs have dried up a little bit, even the singles have dried up a little bit. The batting average has gone down. He's doing so many of the underlying things so much better than he was doing when he was at his hottest. And that when you can see a player doing that, he's going through the struggles on the surface, but everything underneath actually getting better. His strikeout rate's dropping, his walk rate's increasing like crazy, his chase rate's dropping. he is a monster in waiting. Like, there is absolutely no ceiling to what he can do as a baseball player in his career. He's looking great at shortstop defensively. People were a little concerned with that originally too. Based on OAA, he's one of the top in the league. He's only played 2/3 of the season, and his arm, as everyone knows, is
Cannon.
ridiculous. He can throw the ball 96 miles an hour from short to first. He has everything you'd ever want, including the personality, including the bravado. Has some leadership qualities, it seems like. And it's really cool to see like a polarizing star like that, young in his career, have people from all fandoms come out and be like, I want to see this guy play. It had a little bit of that feel based on what you're describing, is like when Shohei was in town, where it's just like, I want to see Ellie De La Cruz.
Yeah, I mean, especially like Cincinnati, tiny, tiny market. So for him to have that pull, really cool to see. But that was it for game one. Mets just lost that one. Nothing you can really do about it. Game two, another tough loss. I mean, the Mets like were hitting the ball well in this one, but they just could not get them to land really.
No, couldn't. Nimmo had 3 hard balls, nothing to show for it. They just it's just one of the games they're finding gloves, and it's just kind of frustrating. This was Andrew Abbott, a pitcher who we talked about in the preview on Thursday, who started off really hot, but has really been kind of tailing off a little bit. And they got to him. They were finding his fastball, and then he just got taken out. And then the Reds bullpen really did a good job to keep the Mets down the whole game and just kind of find a way to score enough to beat them. And a lot of that was McGill just having another McGill game where he just like gritted his teeth and got as many outs as he could, but he wasn't really, missing that many bats. His fastball velocity was back up, though. That was cool. That was his big whiff pitch in this one. He also threw 64% of the time because it didn't seem like he had much going with any of those off speeds or breaking balls. The slider was meh, and he also threw just kind of the same amount of changeups and curveballs he threw that slider, but nothing really that much in this game besides just the Mets they just kind of lost. Regular game, they lost.
Yeah, I mean, we got to see two-hole Alvarez, which is good because he hit the ball hard, got a couple hits. I think had an RBI or two in this one as well. Mauricio up in the 5-hole. Seems like the Mets are kind of getting a little creative with the lineup, which is nice to see. I mean, I want to see these guys swing the bat a little bit more, and it's good to see them starting to move guys around a little bit in spots that eventually maybe one day we could see them in a little bit more regularly. I know Alvarez, it seems like it's going to be one day on, one day off, one day on, one day off with him pretty much. So towards the end of the year, probably continue to expect that, but glad to see him swinging the bat better, swung it well in game 3 as well. Just like little things here and there, but they're going to lose. They're going to lose games. Like it's going to happen. Big college football day too. I mean, I was locked into South Carolina, Georgia. I thought we were going to do it. I really thought we were going to upset them. It looked so good in the first half.
Buckeyes covered. Buckeyes had a great day. Also, this is happening during the wedding. As I said, the couple is just both Buckeyes, both addicted to sports. And there was like one TV in the place that had the game on. And this is just how psycho Ohio State fans are. Even in the first half, I think by the end of it, it was like 42-10. And there was like 20 of us just glued to the screen. We're just like, I want to see some plays. And also, I do want to share, because this was the day of the wedding, one more story about my friend and his wife that kind of, it comes back to baseball. Erica, our family, huge Cleveland sports fans. They formerly Indians, now the Guardians. They love them. And Ross has kind of bounced around his baseball fandom, as I'll say that nicely, in his life.
Wow, okay.
He grew up loving Derek Jeter, and then he has family from Chicago, he claims, and liked the Cubs for a little while. And now he has, Dave on the Pirates, so he roots for the Pirates. But yeah, Ty made a lot of comments in his best man speech about all the teams that Ross liked growing up, and it was really
it really seems to bounce around a bit.
Yeah, no, the guy
not even picking winners necessarily.
Kind of winners. But the Cubs, he really timed the Cubs thing really well. He liked like 5 years, and he got the best 5 years. But every time he was talking about the fans, like all of us on the groom section were just like screaming, like cackling, laughing. So I'm like, some dog barks at him. But so Ross and Erica started dating when we were in college, and it was right around the time that the then Indians were playing the Cubs in the World Series. That's a contentious Midwest World Series for two teams who had, at the time, the two longest, I believe, World Series droughts in all of baseball.
Yes.
And when they just started dating, like really started dating, and I remember when the Cleveland lost the series, Erica, who's so sweet, she's so nice, so shy, just like a wonderful woman all around. You'd never expect this, but she's crazy sports fan, crazy competitive. We were watching in a bar, and she reared back and cracked the wall. I'm happy he's not. I'm happy he's listening to the show, because he would not want me telling the story. But I know I'm safe from all the Ohio people, unless maybe some of the Cincinnati guys listen to this episode. It might get back to them, but her hand hurt, and she went the next day. She busted her hand after they lost the World Series. I go to Ross, and I'm like, I think it's a keeper, dude. That's a good one, but
she's willing to punch a wall over baseball.
Yeah. Her dad mentioned that in his speech too. It was really, really, really funny. But yeah, it was good stuff. And again, just the couples that love sports, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. It's good for them. Congratulations to the happy couple. I'm glad for them.
Now we got to move on to game 3, Sunday's game, a matinee going on during football Sunday, as Zach Wilson's really trying to storm the Jets back against the Cowboys. Commanders not looking that good either.
Yeah, they're bad. I think that's just kind of Ron Rivera is not a good coach. So just counting the days down to Eric Bieniemy can just take over the team.
Yeah. But something else cool happened when the lineups dropped in Sunday's game. We got two-hole Mauricio now.
Yes.
Two-hole Mauricio back playing
Two-hole
second
Ronnie.
base. Yeah, two-hole Ronnie after a couple games at third, back at second with Vientos in the lineup playing third. And it's crazy how quickly this all happened with Ronnie Mauricio. From spending most of the year in the minor leagues to hitting the 117.8 mile an hour double his first game, or first at bat. And then now it's like, whoa, this guy is one of the best hitters in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, he's just a good ball player. I think they're like, again, whenever we talked about Ronnie, there was never a doubt that we thought he was going to be able to hit. It was just going to be like the consistency factor for him because of the low walk rates, because of the chase, because of whatever it was. But the more and more we watch this guy play, I think you just understand he's just kind of a dog. I think that's just kind of what it is. He's that dude.
And he's a ball player. And we've said it a few times. It did feel a little bit like that. That hit tool is just underrated. Like,
Yeah.
talk about something like back control, barrel control, especially. He gets his swing around the ball. His wrists are so quick moving through the zone.
So
Like,
fast.
he always gets like the meaty part of the bat on the ball. And that's like the best thing you can do when you're trying to do some damage. And his hard hit rate finally fell below 50% over this weekend. It's sitting around like 43 right now after Sunday's game. But 2 more hits on Sunday out of that 2-hole, another RBI. Like, there's a lot of things that are going well for Ryan Mauricio. Probably a lot better than even most of us in our wildest dreams could have expected. Especially the only concern with him really is that chase rate and the fact that the ball has been on the ground a lot, and that is keeping the barrel rate down. But this is still no kind of sample size to judge a barrel rate. He's only put, I think, 37, 38 balls in play. Won't probably get to about a real sample size for that as we get through this season. But it's just, there's so many things. There's so many things. And it's just that chase rate. And we have seen some guys, I'm going to talk about a guy in the Reds in a second, like Noelvi Marte. They're kind of being built in this ilk where chasing is kind of, I know it's kind of the opposite. Never mind. It's the opposite of that. Like, as long as you're not chasing, like, you're going to do everything you can to do, like, to be on the field and be a productive member of the lineup. And he's still walking a little bit more than his chase rate would indicate. Right now, he's chasing almost 40% of the time, which is very, very, very high number.
Noelvi or Ronnie?
Ronnie.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I want to talk about Noelvi because I think he had a good series. I think he's a ball player that's also a little underrated.
Save him.
No, I'm saving him. But it's kind of similar to Ronnie, where we who talk about baseball, analyze baseball, watch a lot of baseball, play fantasy sports, like some people with cards, like you kind of get this prospect. What's
I got a huge spider. I got to kill it. I got a big spider. Keep talking.
It's a hectic episode for the boys here, but you kind of get this prospect fatigue with guys when you've heard about them for a while. As Mark tries to kill the spider off camera, he got it. Thumbs up on Mark, killed the spider. But like, you hear about a guy like Ronny Mauricio since he was 17 years old. You hear about a guy like Noelvi Marte who popped off in, I think it was the FCL for the first time or the DSL for the first time. When again, he was like 17 years old. And then these guys are on these prospect lists forever, and people want like the instant satisfaction. They want the gratification. They want the guy like Ellie De La Cruz who goes from an unknown prospect to one of the most electric players in baseball in 18 months. But not everyone's like that. How many times we say prospect development is not linear? It's not linear in any sport. We're watching football right now. There's a lot of guys who, it happens randomly. Like, it just kind of does. Look at freaking like Tyler Algier. He's weirdly a good running back, even though he's behind Bijan Robinson. And Arthur Smith keeps giving him the ball. But I digress. Besides the point, you guys don't care about the fantasy teams. But I kind of feel like that happened with Ronnie, where he's still only 22 years old. He still has peak physical tools. Baseball Savant still lists his weight at 166.
It's just simply not that weight.
But that even could show you
that's
how
my
long
weight.
Yeah, right? That's stupid.
That's insane.
I can show you guys like how long he's had profiles on these websites, much longer than a lot of players have. And like, they got to update this stuff sometimes, but there's just so many things to like. He does so many cool things every single day you watch. They play 2 different infield positions pretty well. He's hitting the ball really hard, harder than most guys in baseball. A lot of good stuff from Ronny Mauricio.
Yeah, it's funny that you compare him and Noelvi Marte because I think they also, I'm going to look up real quick, but like, they're both guys that I have a bunch of cards on because I've just like been a fan of theirs ever since they've really become like prospects that you know of. But they're from like Bowman, like 2019, which we're talking like 4 or 5 years ago now. And that prospect fatigue is super, super real. Super. Like, a guy that exists in the minors for so long, even a guy like Royce Lewis, who didn't even have, actually, I guess he did have as much time. He was a number 1 overall pick, so even more hype around him. And you've seen him come up with Minnesota, and he just might be like a really, really good player. Like, the dude absolutely mashes.
Another player in the series you noticed that with was Hunter Green, who pitched really well against the Mets on Friday night. A guy who was on the cover of Sports Illustrated, which talked about
as a high schooler.
Yes, and then the prospect fatigue happened with injuries, some ineffectiveness, but like, sometimes it just takes guys a little while. Like, we look at some of the best pitchers in baseball over the last few years. We talk about how they got to the spots they got to. Like, a guy like Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole, like those guys were top of the draft, top of the class. Those are kind of can't miss type of guys.
But even Cole took a minute to like, it took him to like Houston get to that next level.
Yeah, and then you look at a guy like Max Scherzer, who was in the league for like 6 years before he really got to that next level. Yeah. Like, after Arizona, his last 2 years in Detroit.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Look at a guy like Jacob deGrom, who was no kind of prospect. I know he's fallen off, but one of the best pitchers the last 5 years, Shane Bieber, no kind of prospect. Look how quickly he became good. No, we're just talking about pitchers now, not as much hitters, but it kind of takes a little bit sometimes. It's not again, it's not like MLB The Show. It's not like 1 point to average,
No.
2 points for power every year, then you eventually get really good. Like it happens. And I wanted to talk about Noelvi Marte. I do think he had a really good series. He is a guy who I think has been weirdly used to be overrated. Now he's gone to be underrated. He put on a lot of weight and he's become a real powerful young man. Yeah, it really got to his shoulders. He's tight up there, tight. But he had a lot of hits in this series, a lot of big hits too, a lot of good situational hits from him. He had a really nice first inning RBI against Quintana in the game on Sunday where I was just like, you got to put the pitch in play. And it was like, it made something good happen with it. And he's hitting the ball really hard. He's not striking out very much. He's walking about league average. He's chasing better than league average. And the Reds, I feel like, are having a lot of these guys come up with the same prospect archetype where they have a really good sense of the strike zone and they're able to really get to their power when they make contact on pitches. And then if you swing and miss, that's okay. As long as the pitch you're whiffing at, you're taking a real hack in the zone. And I think that's kind of a cool thing in player development for them.
Yeah, Christian Encarnacion Strand. You kind of gave him the jinx before this one because I was like, "Ooh, I like him." You're like, "Yeah, we didn't really play that much. He struggled a little bit. I think he had 2 home runs in this series."
Yeah.
He's another guy who's got like impressive power, like really really strong. The opposite of a Noelvi Marte in that like he got drafted, came up real quick, and
Yeah.
necessarily didn't have as much hype, but was able to build that hype through the minor leagues. Prospects are so weird. I mean, even some guys on the Mets like Alvarez came here playing incredibly well. He struggled a little bit recently, but like had a great series today. Mark Vientos, a guy who we had seen in the minor leagues for a very long time. The success hasn't necessarily shown up at the major league level yet, but he is still relatively young. And we saw one of his overall better games of the season in Game 3 on Sunday. He had, I think he was 3 for 4 with an RBI and just like overall good at bats. Stuff that is encouraging to see from someone who maybe hasn't been on top of his game all year.
Yeah, and we want to talk about the offense in this game because Mets did put up 8 runs, had a really nice win. Alvarez had an RBI double. Vientos, you mentioned, 3 hits, all were put in play over 100 miles an hour off the bat. Also an RBI mixed in there. Vogie had a bases clearing double to break this game open. Really nice to see this lineup be able to turn itself over and like tack on runs and like without the home run because it's kind of ironic. The Mets have had a lot of home runs this year, especially relative to a lot of that's Pete Alonso, but especially relative to some teams in the league, especially relative to the team last year. Like they've put the ball out a little bit. So nice to see a game where almost every single starter in the lineup, except for hilariously DJ Stewart and Pete Alonso, had a base hit.
Yeah, no, go figure. The two of the better hitters in this lineup right now, but we take it. Mets to get a win there, and of course, Jose Quintana. Let's talk about him real quick because I'm gonna say. I mean, we're only gonna have like a couple more episodes where we can say it, but man, oh man, where would we be with this guy if we had him in April? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we do next year. Like, knock on wood for a nice, strong offseason for Quintana. But 6 innings, 2 earned runs, just keeps being like such a steady force. You're right, 3.02 on the year and about 40 innings now. So this is kind of a decent sample size on him. Again, it's not a great sample size for ERA. There were a lot of ERA debates on Twitter this week because a lot of the Cy Young race in the National League has become incredibly contentious. And with another not so good start for Justin Steele, really good start for Blake Snell, more good starts from Kodai Senga, Logan Webb storming up the rear right now late. It's like 9 guys who can win this award. Mike Petriello wrote a really good article about that on MLB.com.
Friend of the podcast.
Friend of the podcast, recurring guest over the weekend. But it's a lot of people debating, between the wars on different sites and how special ERA is. There's a lot of people who believe that like ERA should be the be all and the end all for the Cy Young kinds because it's always been. There's a lot of other people who really think ERA is actually like a useless stat because it's really just team context. You're just taking like innings and runs and you're dividing it. It's like an accounting measure, and it's really just more about situations, defense, like a lot of things that really out of the pitcher's control are helping ERA. I think it's kind of cool to read this stuff. You guys check out on Twitter, like Nick Pollock's been talking a lot about it from Pitcher List, Eno Saris, Tom Tango, who's like one of the fathers
Tom Tango? That's a name?
One of the fathers of modern sabermetrics, Tom Tango. He's a beast. If you guys are interested in baseball sabermetrics, you should follow Tom Tango and read some of his stuff. He's a legend.
It's like you put your name, like your first name and your last name in like the Wu-Tang generator, and they're like Tom Tango is what came out.
Honestly, maybe it's a fake name. Like maybe it's just like maybe it's just a pseudonym for his like analytic personality. Maybe he's just like Tom Jones out in the world. Found out over the weekend. Like again, this is just me being stupid. Alicia Keys is not Alicia Keys. Like of course not.
What?
Yeah, no, her name's not Keys.
No way, I'm looking this up.
No, I got so deep in her Wikipedia on Wednesday night. I guarantee it.
Alicia Cook.
Yep.
Wow, it's another really normal last name.
Yeah.
I guess Alicia. Oh, because she played the piano keys.
Of course, she's great with the piano prodigy, young piano prodigy, Alicia Keys. And Alicia Keys is
voice of an angel.
As good of a stage name as you could ever find. If anyone out there ever listens to like the NPR Tiny Desk concerts, she probably is the best one of all time. You'll be transcended.
Incredible talent. Also married to Swizz Beatz.
Yes, imagine the music they can create in that family, and also New York City kid Alicia Keys, born Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah. Oh wow, Hell's Kitchen. That's an
Yeah,
interesting place to grow up.
yeah, in the 80s.
Yeah.
But back to baseball. Only a couple things to wrap this game up and the series in general. Jeff Brigham's not been good since he came back
No.
up. So hey, I had this for a couple. That 1 month, guys, April. Wow, was I
Riding
on with
high.
Jeff Brigham? Man, was that fun. And something else interesting that happened this game was the ninth time this year where the Mets did not throw a pitch over 95 miles an hour.
Huh.
Yeah, and there were 7 other times they threw one single pitch over 95 in a game.
Huh.
It's a frustrating
Okay.
thing. Yeah, it's a frustrating
Yeah.
thing, and I feel like that's probably going to be a point of emphasis this offseason, I have to guess.
Definitely, without a doubt. I mean, get some arms in there that got a little juice behind it. I'm sure they were also, really relying on one particularly big
Yeah.
arm to be in there throwing a little bit harder, Edwin Diaz, and also the guy that me and you, I'll still never forget that night at Jack Dempsey's in Midtown, where we were just like we were having one of our late night rendezvous, drinking at Jack Dempsey's and going through the Mets roster. I'm like, man, I really think Bryce Montestoca could be that guy. Like,
I mean, maybe next year. Maybe next year. Mr. Bednar, we're talking a lot about Edwin Diaz and like how to make a good reliever because thinking of you guys have seen David Bednar probably on TV. He's not doesn't really have the body shape like an elite pitcher like Edwin Diaz. Dave
good
Bednar's probably
fullback.
yeah, he'd be a great fullback. I think he was a high school linebacker. I'm almost positive in it.
Makes sense.
But yeah, just like talking about like how like results wise over the last 2 years, these are two of the best relievers in baseball, and that they're completely different. Even like comparing the Class A, because I got a Class A is a 2-seamer, Dave has the 4-seamer, like Diaz has a slider. It's funny to make a reliever and like to hear a dad who was a high school baseball coach and like has his kids are both professionals just be able to like talk about this stuff. It was really good conversation. He also took my number. He said, "Hey, I'm in New York next year. We're hanging out.
Yes.
We had a great time together." I'm like, "Mr. Bednar, I promise we will."
Deal.
But, yeah,
Don't
deal.
ask me twice.
100% deal. Oh, Zach. Oh my God. But that's wrapped up the series. Mets lost 2 out of 3 from a Reds team that is on the doorstep of the playoffs. And play devil's advocate. If we're going to lose 2 out of 3 of any of these series the rest of the year, I'd prefer it to be this one because I want
To
this Reds
America's
team.
team.
I want this Reds team in the playoffs. They deserve it.
Yeah, they're America's team. I'm rooting for the Reds. Good friend Sammy. Hope he gets to see them in the playoffs. If they play a home game, or if they're in the playoffs and playing, I'm going. I'm going to see some Reds games. They're gonna be fun.
Yeah, sure. I'm into it. I'm doing this podcast. My buddy Reed's girlfriend's apartment. He's also a big Reds fan. So shout out Reed on the other side of the wall, watching Red Zone.
He can come to the game with us.
Yeah, he's in, totally in. He'd love to.
Now to bring in Mr. John Barron for the Esti-Met. We haven't done an Esti-Met in a minute. John's been a little busy. We've been kind of all over the place with our travel schedules as well. John, what's going on? Rocking the Indiana hat, proud today.
Yeah, I'm reminding James because it has been a while.
Did Indiana win on Saturday? I saw they played
Yeah,
Louisville. It's a winnable game.
Lost the heartbreaker. Close play at the goal line, 4th down stand by Louisville. It'll happen. Covered. Second time they've done that. Actually, they've covered all 3 games. They're 3-0 against the spread this year.
There you go.
As a matter of fact. So, but yeah, James, you're still gonna have your time in the sun with the water.
Don't
worry. Next time we see you, it'll be night. That's gonna suck.
Next Thursday. No, it'll be all right. I think I'm gonna do the jersey and the water the same time. Thursday, September 28th.
2 birds with 1 stone.
Yeah.
I like that.
Wait, do the Jets play that night? Is that the Jets Thursday night?
Oh, I think it might be.
No, the Giants play Thursday night this week. Oh, that's the next. No,
it's next week. 2 weeks. No, I think the Jets Broncos the Thursday night game, which I think is the week after.
I'm just gonna look it up for you real quick.
I know the Jets play the Patriots next.
You're fine. They got the Chiefs Sunday. October 1st.
Oh God.
That's bad. Thank gosh for Indiana football.
Thank God for Indiana football is right.
That's enough Indiana football talk. By the way, I joined you guys late. I don't know if you said this. Mets starters last 12 games, 2.14 ERA. Starting rotation has been lights out for the Mets. So something you like to see. Anyway, Mets Marlins coming up next. It's been a while. Marlins are in the thick of it, right?
John's Marlins.
John's Fish.
I mean, yeah. So for anyone that is confused, earlier before the year started, I told these guys I liked what Miami did in the offseason. Everyone laughed at me, called me crazy. So, whatever.
I'll give you guys a question right now. Can you guess the date, the last time the Mets played the Marlins?
It was in April.
Yeah,
just tell me April what?
The Mets
April
home
20th, 420.
It was April 9th.
Yeah, it was the Mets opened at home again against them.
Yeah, that's right. I was wearing a tuxedo.
Yeah,
they played their first 4 in Miami, and
I jinxed Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah,
that's right. You did.
Yep.
Hey, John wasn't here for the last one. Yeah, James said next time we'll play the Marlins, Aaron Rodgers will have 10 touchdowns.
That's right. You absolutely brought Rodgers up.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Pretty awful.
Well, anyway, I'm sitting here watching them right now, so no spoilers. I'm on Fubo, a little bit behind.
Oh.
So yeah, Fubo. Anyway, so Mets Marlins, Luis Ariz, 1 hit shy of 200. Dude that obviously puts the ball in play a lot. Doesn't swing and miss a lot. Did I say 200 or 100? Let me start that over.
You said
200. You said
Okay,
200. Right. We're on.
A guy that doesn't swing and miss much at all. So for the Esti-Met here, I want you guys to tell me how many times does Mets pitching get Luis Arraez to swing and miss?
That's going to be a tough one. He's also, he doesn't walk, so he doesn't see a lot of pitches.
He's also hit 3 home runs his last 10 at-bats over the weekend, which is crazy.
He does this. He did that. Wow, Luis Arraez is only 26?
Yeah, dude.
Great trade on both sides.
Both sides,
Unbelievable trade.
Twins won the trade, but it's still a good trade.
Probably.
Man, Luis Arraez swings and misses against the Mets.
He has not swung and missed much this year.
That's what I'm saying.
He's faced 2,100 pitches, and he's swung and missed 8% of the time.
That's insane. So you kind of just got to try and figure out how many pitches you think he's going to see.
Yeah, kind of.
All right.
And he's going to see Kodai, who's the Mets' best whiff artist.
Yeah. Let me go this. I got to write down some numbers. I don't know where my whiteboard's at. This is great podcasting yet again.
No, I mean, I don't have a whiteboard either, so we'll yell them out. But before we do it, I'll give you guys the Mets pitching matchups this series against the Marlins. Monday. These are all 6:40 start times as well. So everyone be ready for 6:40 start times. You think it's 7:10, you're going to miss the first inning and a half. But Monday night, Jose Budo, the ascendant Jose Budo against Braxton Garrett. Tuesday, 6:40, Joey Lucchesi against Yuri Perez. That's the guy who I think we're going to be highlighting as we get through this episode. And then Wednesday, 6:40, FS1, Kodai Senga versus the ageless Johnny Cueto.
Johnny Cueto. Can't believe he's still kicking around. All right. I got my answer. You got yours, James?
Yes, I do.
Okay. John, count us down.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
4. Wow. Okay. I had 4. I ran the numbers. I thought 45 pitches, 8%, 3.6. 4's roundup, 5 because Kodai Senga's pitching.
Nice. I have a 2-game lead, and there's 4 series left. So a win here would guarantee me a tie.
Dormy. You'd be dormy if you get a win here.
Mark, are the commies winning tonight?
No, absolutely not. No, they're bad. Ron Rivera's a bad coach.
The commies never win this country, John.
Yeah, don't you know that?
Fair enough, guys. All right, I'll see you guys later, James. Looking forward to our next encounter.
Yeah, we're gonna pour bottles of smart water on my head.
It's gonna be great.
Thanks, John. We'll catch you at the stadium.
Bye, guys.
Bye, John.
All right. To wrap this one up here, like you said, we haven't seen the Marlins in a minute, and it is a little bit different than we thought they were going to look like when we were going to be playing them.
Different and the same.
No, well, we thought that the roster was going to be different because they were going to be getting rid of people. Instead, their roster is different because they've added people. They've added Jake Berger, who's been, I think, pretty good with them. Yep. He's just hits the ball hard. We've talked about him before. Just a hard hit barrel guy. That's pretty much all he does. We've also added Josh Bell, who we know is a bit of a Met killer. And he's been playing a lot better in Miami than he was in Cleveland this year.
Yeah, I mean, hey, sometimes get out of Ohio, things wind up well for you. And they've also called up super prospect Yuri Perez, who the Mets are going to see in this series. And Yuri Perez, I'm not going to use any of these terms lightly, is probably the most exciting pitching prospect, especially when you consider age to level and stuff that we've seen since. I hate bringing this up, but
I know who it is.
It's Jose Fernandez.
Yep.
He genuinely is. And there's a little bit of irony. It's probably a little bit of poetic justice that's happening in Miami again. But Yuri Perez, 28 years old, at 6'8", it's ridiculous right now. He has a 3 ERA. He's striking out 30% of the batters he's facing while only walking 8% of them. His fastball is electric. His slider has a 47% whiff rate. His curveball has a 55% whiff rate. His changeup has a 46% whiff rate. The guy is absolutely, completely unhittable. And he is, again, 20 years old doing this right now at the major league level.
No, he's extremely talented. One of those few guys you always like to say pitching prospects are fake. This guy's
not him. He's the only real pitching prospect. Again, we've like that been like this kind of like this phenom type thing in about a decade since Jose.
100%. He's extremely talented. Mets fans, again, you should be glued to the TV for that one. Worth watching Yuri Perez just go out there and throw. Someone we're going to see for a very, very long time, probably on the Marlins. Also, a little homecoming. Well, not a homecoming. He's not coming home just yet. But David Robertson coming back to play the Mets. He's been doing his best Jason Vargas impression with the Phillies and the Marlins, where he is pitching just about as bad as he possibly can. It's not great. Yeah,
he looks not so great right now. And also someone who has looked great after being on the shelf with injury for a while. Jazz Chisholm has had a crazy 2 weeks over here, and he's coming in. Actually, also, remember, this also could tell you how long it's been since we saw them. Remember when Jazz Chisholm was like incapable of playing center field in April when he only played there like 9 games? Well, now he's good
awesome now. Yeah, he's an amazing center fielder now, which like What? How did that happen? How do you just get better at center field having never played it?
The team's really solid. We got to miss the whole Luis Ariz 400 drama because it's not even gonna be close to that anymore. Like, he's pulled the nose up a little bit, and he actually might lead the league in batting after a pretty bad 6 weeks, but he's holding off Freddie Freeman kind of well. And you mentioned Jake Berger. Jake Berger, we've heard also great things from a lot of trusted league sources that he's just a heck of a clubhouse guy. People love him in the locker room. He just kind of looks like a fun dude. He's got like the body type of someone who have a good sense of humor. He hits the ball really hard. It just seems like a vibe. Jesus Sanchez, Brian De La Cruz have not had great second halves, but I'm sure they're going to kill the Mets because they always do. John Berthy is going to get on the field and do something awful to us. There's no doubt about it.
Joey Wendell.
Yeah, God, this team. And we're missing Jesus Luzardo and Edward Cabrera this series, who have been pretty electric for this team overall. Edward Cabrera just came back from rotation last week and had a really nice start. Luzardo, another one of John's guys, had a very good season. I think it's probably not as good as he could have been. There's still a lot more you can do. People will see the 3.8 ERA and scoff at that, be like, oh, you think it's a good season, 3.8 ERA? But he's cut down the walks. He gets a lot of strikeouts. It's the first time he's had a full, complete, healthy season, which is a really good step in the right direction for a guy was a super prospect and had like a lot of ups and downs the last few years. That's kind of what we're talking about. Kind of theme this whole episode, Got 25 years old. Finally has first like really good season. Happens like that.
Yeah, and I mean, these are massive, massive games for the Marlins. Right now, at the time of recording, Sunday, 6 o'clock, Miami is technically in the playoffs. They're tied for that last wild card spot with the Arizona Diamondbacks at a 78-72 record. Diamondbacks have a game tonight against the Cubs. That's going to be huge for them as well because they're half a game behind the Cubs. So these are teams that need to win these games. The Marlins, you're going to see quick hooks. You're going to see guys being moved around. You're going to be seeing them playing this game like it's a playoff game. And I'd love nothing more than to knock the Marlins out of the playoffs. It would be chef's kiss. It would be amazing.
Yeah, just for John, too. I don't really want to see that. I don't really want to see it went over on us.
No, I can't let him think he was right. I don't think he was right in what he said, but he's right in the execution, unfortunately. And it's kind of how John rolls a little bit for us.
I mean, yeah, broken clocks are always going to be right twice a day.
Yeah, this is one of those times. But hopefully we can make sure that John can't be right. And if there's any Mets people out there, get that win for us so John can be wrong. We know you'll appreciate that too. Otherwise, we got anything else to talk about here or wrap it up?
I think we're good.
Let's wrap it up here, guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Make sure you follow us on all our social media at Mets'd on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Subscribe to the New York Mets YouTube channel so you can see the video version of this. And if you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Odyssey, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. We do appreciate all you guys hanging out and listening with us through the end of the season. James, what's your Twitter?
James_Shiano.
And me, Giraffe Neck Mark with a C. Thank you guys for listening and watching. We'll catch you after the Marlins series. Peace out.
Peace out. See you guys next time.